All right, so I haven't done an office tour yet. I will do one, but this window right behind me is the only light source in my studio. And it's all right, but it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing at all. So Nanlite have sent me over a couple of lights, two of which I think you need in your studio setup to make it look a little bit more cinematic. So let's dive in. So the first thing to talk about is the key light. Now, a key light is the primary light source used to illuminate the subject in a scene. For example, my face right here. It's often used to maybe like mimic a window, like the light coming through a window. Now this one is the Nanlite FC120B. Now the 120 stands for 120 watts, meaning it's not the most power hungry in their lineup. They have like a 500 watt one, which is gonna make your electricity bills very, very high, or the 60 watt, which is a little bit less power hungry, meaning it's not as bright. So this is kind of like the middle ground, but for me, it's way brighter than I need, for example, for these studio setups. But I have a few features that I need in a light that tick the boxes, and this pretty much has all of them. So A, bright enough for everything I need it to be. B, it's color accurate. So the B in the name actually stands for BiColour, and this means that you can change the color of the light from different temperatures, from a warmer setting like 3200 Kelvin or a cooler daylight setting to 5600 Kelvin, and you can adjust the values in between that so you can change it. But it's not an RGB light, meaning you can't do those funky disco red, green, blue lights. This is just BiColour. It just changes the color temperature. And then we have the PavoSlim 60CL, which is the light I'm using right here as a rim light or a kicker. The kicker or rim light is usually set higher than the subject and behind the subject, pointing towards their back. And basically what it does, it creates a rim light. As you can see here, I've set it to this red/orange color, and this separates me from the background. If I was to turn off the rim light, now you can see that my black t-shirt is kind of blended into the background, but as soon as I turn it back on, you can kind of see I'm separated. It makes the scene have a lot more depth, just looks a little bit nicer to the eye. Now the PavoSlim 60CL is in its name. It's a slim light panel, and the L stands for long because you can get different shaped ones like square ones, but this is kind of like a rectangular shaped light panel. It also has a quick open softbox, which is really handy. At first, I had no idea how to open this, but I managed to figure it out, and it's actually really, really handy. Now this light is RGB, allowing you to choose pretty much whatever color you like within the color spectrum, which is super handy if you want kind of more creative lighting scenarios. And it can also run on mains power, NPF batteries, or V-mount, and these are all provided within the box. And it also comes with a super clamp, which allows you to mount it to whatever you want. Now in other lighting scenarios, you might have heard of the 3-point lighting setup. So far we have a key light right here, a kicker, which is used to separate the subject from the background, and often you have what's called a fill light. And the fill light pretty much fills in the shadows that would be caused by the key light right here. And the reason that the key light causes shadows is because it's pretty much set 45 degrees from me, so it's not directly over to my left and it's not directly in front of me, so it's 45 degrees here, it's slightly higher, and it's pointing down onto my face here to create kind of like shadow and depth. Otherwise, if I was completely front on lit, there'd be no shadows, my face would look flat and I probably wouldn't even look that good. So point the light down at you at 45 degrees. Now this would cause shadow on this side of my face, but because my walls in my office are white, the light is kind of like reflecting off of it anyway, so I'm not having these super harsh shadows. I get a little bit of a fill anyway, so that's why I think that the two lighting setup, especially when you have bright walls in your office, is all you need. All right, so from the intro, you can see how I turned my lighting studio setup into what it is right now from a pretty flat, boring lighting scenario. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys how I achieved this look right here. Let's go. What we're gonna first have to do is shut off all available lights so that we can control it using the lights. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is set up the key light. I'm actually using my phone light right now, just so you guys know that I am not cheating when I'm making this studio setup. So we have the key light over here, and let's set it up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is actually turn on the light so that you can see exactly what's going on. So right here I have what's called a softbox, and the softbox diffuses the light onto my face. And if I didn't have a softbox, the light would be super harsh and I'd get super harsh shadows. Now don't be confused here, you don't want harsh shadows, you want soft shadows. You also might be wondering what this thing is called. Some people call it like a honeycomb, I call it an egg crate, not sure what the right terminology is, but this pretty much stops the spill of the light from going too far onto the walls when it's pointed at something. So what we're going to want to do, as mentioned earlier, is point the light down at us 45 degrees and make it a little bit higher. So let's do that. Raise the light, and then we're going to point it down. We set our white balance to daylight in the camera, and on the light over here, we're gonna set it to 5600 Kelvin. And we're going to now dim the light until we get a nice exposure on our face. So we are set up with the key light right here. Next thing to talk about is the kicker. So right here, the setup is the Nanlite PavoSlim 60CL. If I turn the light on right now for you guys, you can see that we have the light on right here. It's at 11% right now, but it can go pretty bright, as you can see. I feel like I'm in like Blade Runner or something right now. But what we're gonna do with this setup is pretty much set it higher than the subject and also pointing down at like my shoulder and my hair, and trying not to point it towards the background, otherwise the light will get onto the background and I'll kind of blend in. The light has a ball head right here, so you can adjust it to however you like. And it's attached to this C-stand. So if you're doing a lighting setup, you will need C-stands. And then on here, as you can see, we have the main brain, the power unit of the light. And this also allows you to adjust the settings of the light. Okay, so now that the light is set up higher out of frame, pointing towards our shoulders, we now have to sit down, look at the frame and see if it looks good. So we're gonna get that done now. So right now I'm using the NanLink app, and to connect the lights, it's actually super easy. Turn on your Bluetooth and the app pretty much finds all the lights and connects them straight away. So we have like dim, right now I'm controlling the kicker in the background, and you can also change the color to whatever you want as well. So we're gonna go from 0, as you can see my shoulder is now blending in with the background, and as we increase it ever so slightly, we get a little bit of a separation. In all honesty, I am really happy with this lighting setup. It looks good, it's clean, there's a little bit of depth because I'm using f1.4 on the lens. And the last thing that you want to include in your lighting scenarios is practical lighting. So this could be like LED light bars, this could be lamps in the background of your shot. Hey Google, office lights on. But I think for me personally, it's a bit too bright and I don't want to have those on, because I have a little trick up my sleeve, which is another light that Nanlite do, but it's the attachment that is a fun part. All right, so the last thing we're gonna highlight is this. This is what's called a projection mount. It's on a Forza 60B. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 60 and 120 or 500. 60 stands for the watts. What you have here is a projection mount. And the projection mount pretty much creates what you saw in the beginning of the video, which looked like sun kind of coming through the blind. So I'm gonna turn it on. There we go, look at that. Sun rays, no real sun rays, which is kind of crazy. You can see the difference when I'm actually sat down. Off, on. I'm going to show you quickly how it works. Now, this sunlight over here is actually created by this little attachment that goes into the projection mount, which is this here. It's like this metal plate which has the kind of blind effect, and this can actually be taken out and replaced with different shaped ones. So you can get like ones like trees. Without it, it's kind of a circle, and you can also use these I don't know what they're called, but you can use that to shape the light, make it into a square if you wanted. So yeah, that's pretty much it on how to kind of like step up the lighting in your studio. It's very simple with 2 lights. Last things to remember, key light right here, 45 degrees from you. So if you stay your arm out right here, 45, don't do that. 45 degrees pointing down towards your face. And you have a kicker, which is kind of highlighting yourself here. You could also have a fill light if you have the extra budget or the money. And then if you have any practicals, maybe lamps or something like that, you can put those in the background of your shot. Yeah, we're gonna sign out now. And thank you to Nanlite for sending the lights over. FC120B, PavoSlim 60CL, and a projection mount if you want one as well. So thank you. Catch you guys in the next video.